And hi, everybody. Welcome to Rick Snider's Washington on YouTube, where you get the whole story, even though my shirt's half undone. So please like, share, subscribe, comment, and hit the thanks button for all of you getting ready to load on. Uh, Nobody's here. Steve, where are you? If you're watching this on repeat, more people watch on replay than live, even. But we're going to go over all the latest news. If you're watching on replay, especially right now. Um, so I'll be right back. Oh, okay. And we're back. And a bunch of you are here. Okay. So thanks for coming. So Monday nights, 8 to 9 is pretty much when I do this. And we'll be doing it every Monday through um, the season. So whenever that ends on all that. Todd, thanks for coming. And vacation was good. Spent last week with kids and grandkids in Virginia mountains somewhere. I don't know where we were. Saw the Ray Caverns, things like that, if you know where it is. So appreciate it. Steve, are you here? I didn't even see yet. Let me pull up my notes. Team returned practice today after the preseason loss at New York Jets. Hey, Tyler. And they will practice tomorrow. I'm going to be at practice tomorrow. And we will go over, everything. And then I'll do a midday report and such. And then they take a break again because Wednesday they travel to Miami. And then they scrimmage, well, not scrimmage, they joint practice against Miami on Thursday. Friday, they just work on meetings and stuff. And then Saturday is the next preseason game. And then, finally they'll have the third preseason game will be in Washington. So that's kind of the schedule for this week. The pad, they're going to, Dan Quinn talked today. Pads will be Tuesday, and Thursday, of course, against the Dolphins, and then Saturday game. So they're kind of off and on every time. Antoinette, is the Preakness moving to Virginia? No, you don't have a racetrack in Virginia, really. I mean, the one down Richmond, not Richmond, Williamsburg kind of area, but that's not doing it. No, you're never coming there. David, thank you for coming. The Woodrow Wilson. Yeah, I went to Woodrow Wilson's boyhood home in Stanton. So it was interesting to see on there. Okay, so let me run down notes today. Dan Quinn talks to the media. He said Sam Hartman is out, right shoulder injury. Not really. It didn't seem to feel like it was a major deal, but he did say any players who don't practice by Thursday won't play Saturday, and that would then include Brandon Coleman and Johnny Newton. They're day to day. Doesn't seem like be like big injuries this time of year. They don't have to coaches don't have to disclose injuries so much. So they don't really tell a whole lot about it. Jordan McGee, the one thing that Quinn said about him was they're going to be doing more testing, which means it's more serious. Quinn's quote was, "It was a bummer for sure." He thought he was off to a good start, and then he gets hit. So I think Jordan McGee. I don't know if it's a season-ending deal, but it's definitely something that's going to take a little longer to do. Offensive line. They moved Chris Paul out to tackle because he had some experience there in the colleges. Andrew Wiley didn't play last weekend. He's had back tightness, but he is expected back at practice on Tuesday. A couple of things the coach said was De'Ami Brown is definitely on his radar. After that 42-yard catch, why wouldn't he? But, Brown's always been a guy that could make some big plays. He just didn't seem to make a lot of them. But when he did, they were always good. So definitely, but that's the last coach's player. You kind of wonder what Quinn would do with him. I think Diami's, making this team. Coach also signaled out on special teams, running back Michael Wiley and safety Tyre Owens. He really liked what they did. Anytime coach is talking about you well, that's a good thing. All right, so that was really the only things that came out of the presser today on there. Todd, Jake Fromm signed with the Lions today. Okay, there you go. Let me just see what else happens here. Hartman, they gave Hartman a lot of money, so it makes you wonder um, what's going on with that. Why did they do that? But when you had Driscoll too, and I think Driscoll has looked the best of the three reserve quarterbacks at times that I've seen him. Oh, somebody already beat me to it, but thank you, Matib Khan, donated $5 to the cause to help Rick, not go broke. So I do appreciate that. Kickers, I got a video in the morning, 6 a.m. that'll be up about kickers. But to me, they don't have a kicker problem yet because they don't have a season, hadn't started yet. And I expect them to really look at other people who have cut kickers come, end of August, early just September. I think that's where their kicker comes from. But I don't want to understate the problem there because to me, all right, quarterbacks have the most influence on wins and losses on a team. But after that, I think kickers have as much of influence over wins and losses as any player on the field, and more so than most. I mean, how many running backs, how many safeties, how many of those guys are going to make a difference in 3-4 games in the season, win-loss column? Kicker will, and so those who do not really work on their kickers get screwed by it. Now, of course, this team, they let Joey Sly go because, of course, he was the last coach's guy, and they wanted their own guy, but then their own guy got accused of sexual battery in June, and they couldn't keep him. Not this team. So they had to go looking for kickers, and so that's all they're doing. The kickers in practice have been okay, but in big moments they haven't always shined. So I have a feeling they're probably going to find somebody else. Mike, is the second preseason game now the dress rehearsal? Yeah, Coach hasn't talked about this any yet. Maybe later in the week we'll hear about it. But I think so. Although the third preseason game to me is a national TV game, and the TV people are going to say we want to see Jaden Daniels. Want a national TV audience, and it's the only live home game in the preseason. So I expect that he'll play. How much, I'm not sure, but I think he'll play a little more. And of course, if you're playing him, you're playing your offensive line, you're playing your whole offense like that for as long as he's out there. You don't want to be anything stupid otherwise. So I think that's probably we'll see more in the third. Now, how many people will be at that third preseason game, which is a Sunday night, 8 p.m.? Thanks for that. I don't know, 15,000. It's going to be empty, because it's one of the last weekends of summer. You got to go to work the next day. Who wants to burn a day off, because you went to a preseason game? It's one thing if it's a regular season game. So I don't expect much of a crowd at all. And to play New England, the Patriots, without Brady, not quite the crowd it once was. Not at all. So we'll see what happens there. Smack City, is there a player that surprised me so far? Yeah, there's a few actually on that. Let's see. Do I have my roster with me? There's a few, but I don't know. Nothing that you said came from nowhere and it's going to make this team. Tyler, what I'm hearing the Seahawks fans here in Washington is Hal hasn't looked too good, and there's zero competition with Gino. I haven't kept up with the Seahawks much to know about that, to be honest. Bob, yes, Joey Slides with the Patriots now, so good luck for him. Matib, has Brandon Coleman looked good the days he was healthy? Yeah. I mean, I think the left, if he's healthy, I think he's a starting left tackle. But we'll see, because preseason's a little shorter now with 3 games. If he doesn't play this week, that means he's got maybe 1 game to really get ready, or maybe they decide to go safer and go with Cornelius Lucas in the opener and get Coleman in later. That's something they just got to wait and be seen. Jake, this team is in for a long season. Don't like our receivers and DBs. I don't have a problem with the receivers. I think they'll be okay. Terry, John Dotson, Diami, McCaffrey. I think it's not the best receiving core in the league, but I think it's got something to it. DBs, we'll see. I mean, at this point, I think there's some guys that can play if they line up right. I mean, I have to see what the system is like. I think the DBs are going to really rely upon the D line to put some pressure up. Jamin Davis try and be a pass rusher, especially third downs, might be his real role in the end. Emmanuel Forbes has looked better in this training camp preseason, but he gets beat, but everybody gets beat. So let's just see what happens there. I They may play some other people at times. Well, that's going to be an interesting one to watch. Joel, do you like Dan Quinn's hat backwards or front? Well, I'm a frontwards kind of guy with the hat, but I mean, listen, everybody, when you're young, you can wear it backwards just to be it. Or Leamon Evans, who played for this team for a few years in the '90s, used to wear his hat sideways. Leamon was a funny guy. That was the only guy I can remember offhand that wore his hat sideways. Um, so I would like to see it frontwards, but Dan doesn't have any hair at this point. I'm going to shave, but wear it how you want. I do think wearing black at practices all the time, this heat's nuts, but the heat broke finally here in Washington for those of you out of town. Thank God the heat broke. So it usually does in the middle of August anyway. It was a hot summer, but I've seen worse. So the practices are in the morning, so they don't really deal with the heat as much. Now they're going down to Miami, and you will deal with the heat in Miami. I'll say that. Okay, let's see. Am I heading down for Miami? No, I'm not. They don't pay me to travel anymore, so I don't. I went to a Miami joint practice in the '90s, and it was the biggest fight I ever saw. I'd say it was maybe 100 players, between the two sides, about 50 of them, which was about half the players you had on the field overall. And it was huge on that. I forget who did what, but it was a big brawl. But that was also the fights. I think it was the Jets coach said this, and I agree with him. It's the second day of joint practices that most fights happen, and so a lot of teams aren't doing that. They're doing one break preseason game, and that's so you don't get quite that, rivalry kind of there. That's probably true. I would say most fights do happen on the second day in the old days, so they're kind of getting around that. Todd hopes Emmanuel Forbes figures out how to stop, Jaden Waddle or Tyreek Hill. Yeah, I don't know that he's going to be what they ever hoped he would be, but then again, we'll see. I think there's a little time before we finally decide what happens to Forbes. Mr. Cool, do you think the Commanders were greatly inspired by Joe Gibbs and Darrell Green's visit? Not really. Fans were more, but players they never played for him. They've heard of him, but I don't think that's really it. Does Chris Paul make the team, Antoinette? Yes. They played him some tackle the other day. They look for players that can play two positions. So, I don't know why my eyes weird today. They look for players with two positions. So, I think he'll make the team. When do they leave for Miami, Greg? On Wednesday. So they'll practice Tuesday, and then Wednesday is a travel day. Thursday is a practice. Friday is not off day, but the film and meetings and such. Saturday is the game, and it's 7:00. So no daytime game like last week at noon, was it? That was crazy. I've seen maybe 3 times in the years I've covered it having that, but the NFL is doing that more now. They want to have a game at 1, 4, 7, and 9 or something crazy. NFL loves money. Tim, after watching the joint practice in the game against the Jets, I think while both were informative, the joint practice is more informative. Would you agree? It is, I think, a little more with the starters that you're looking at starter versus starter. When you're looking at all the third stringers versus third stringers in the second half of games, that's not really telling you much. So maybe, even though it's limited, and it was limited this time against the Jets. Ask Steve, or Shreve, I'm sorry. Ask Shreve. Has Trent Scott really looked as bad at camp? I don't think so, although I have not watched a lot of him. But I had hopes that he might actually move up a little bit. I know that I've read some stuff where other people didn't think he did, but I didn't see anything that's really made me go, oh no. Jordan, do you think JD5 has a chance to win Rookie of the Year? Yeah, I was trying to think about JD5 and RG3, and what do I think Jaden's upside is? I mean, Robert had a great rookie year. I think Jaden could too. It'll be interesting to see what the coaches and how they support the players and what kind of systems they're using and all these kind of things. You haven't seen anything yet. You haven't seen anything yet to do with like these kickoff returns, not the real ones. You're just all doing the basics out there right now, but they're going to change come September for a little while. I think Jaden's got a shot at being just as good as RG3 was his first year. A little bit different of a player on there, but this guy is not short on confidence or arm. So I think they got it right on the quarterback. And that's a great thing because when you have a good quarterback, you always have a puncher's chance to win, no matter what. And I think they got the right guy. Haven't said that in a long time. I didn't see that. I wouldn't see this after Heath, or after Ramsey or that kind of stuff, or Haskins, But this one's RG3 real kind of thing. William, not sure about Darryl, but Joe had a pretty conspicuous ring. Yeah, the last Super Bowl ring he was wearing. Um, Players like it, but young players, they don't really know the legends of the past, not in any real definable way. Although some of them will say, for older teammates, they'll look at them and go, like, say, Bobby Wagner. Some of these guys grew up watching Bobby Wagner. That was a big deal for them to meet Bobby Wagner and play with him because they know him. They don't really know Joe and all that. Okay, let's see. Offensive line depth making Abe nervous. I think they're okay there. I don't have a real problem. They don't have a great line, but they have depth on there. And Gregory has the same thing. I think their line right now, I'm okay with it. It's not a great line, but I think if it works out right, if they do the right kind of calls and schemes and such, you can really help your offensive line. You can mask a lot of problems. Do I like the new kickoff rule, Todd? Yeah, something different. Kind of like Rock'em Sock'em Robots kind of thing. Wait till you really see the blocking schemes that they're working on. I think running backs will be more kick returners than the past. Used to be receivers were your kick returners because that speed, but that's negated now. You need a guy who can run through traffic, and that's a running back. So actually, it'll change the roster a little. You'll see probably one more running back than you will a receiver for doing this. Gregory, would you be concerned if they lose all 3 pointless preseason games? Nah. I mean, my wife was even asking us, what did win lose by? What happened? It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. All these games. You'd like not to look like the fool, But other than that, and if you're going to play, you might as well win. But I don't think anybody walked off the field going, "Oh, bummer, lost at the gun," kind of thing. Bob, is Luray Caverns all day or just a few hours? It's just an hour. I mean, you wander through the caves. I went to Luray Caverns with my grandkids, and yeah, it took a little less than an hour. It's pretty cool though. I mean, if you go, it was the one thing I learned before I went. If most of you in Washington might have a giant food card, your giant card, you get discounts. They actually give you 50% off the second person at Luray with that giant food card. Who knew that? I've never seen it used for anything outside of gas points, So that was cool. And it's like 50 some degrees year round underground. So if you're cold, if somebody gets cold, take a jacket. But it wasn't too crowded and there's a lot of great stuff to see. I did a video for anybody who wants to go look it up. Jordan, what's my favorite food? Jordan, are you new to the program? It's always pizza. I tried pizza a couple of times with grandkids I put up videos or whatever. Oh, I did a food challenge I have a grandson who's 9. He loves YouTube, always wants to be on it. He's a picky eater. So I say, okay, it's a new contest. We'll both try it go on YouTube. So you have to be able, so we both tried relish, which I knew I didn't like relish. He didn't know. We both tried it. We both hated it. And it was the most watched video of the week. So that's the craziness. I'm going to a pizza place Wednesday. I'm going to make a video. It's called Curry and Pies. It's in Georgetown. It's Indian meets Italy. India meets Italy for food fusion. I have no idea what to expect. The pizza looks interesting. Say that. Alexander, have I read the new George Allen book? Yeah, I know the guy who wrote it. I can't say I read all, I don't know, it's like 600 pages or something. But I read parts of it, and he did a very good researching job on it. Say that. I mean, George was, say he was quirky would be the least. I mean, George Allen, they had to get a driver for George Allen because he was in so many accidents driving, to Redskin Park. They just figured it was safer and cheaper to hire him a driver because he just couldn't concentrate on driving. And a good thing in the book, I didn't know this one was, George liked ice cream so much because he didn't have to take time to chew it. He could eat it quickly, and then he could just everything was about focusing on football. I don't know how I had kids or anything if you're so focused on football. I had heard that George Allen's house was burgundy and gold painted, but the rain came and it all melted off, kind of thing. But I asked Bruce Allen about it, and he wouldn't answer because Bruce was a big jerk. Wouldn't talk about anything. All right, Scotty. Thanks. Vacation posts I just posted. They were kind of fun. I did not go to a frontier cultural museum. I didn't hear about that. So nope, didn't know anything about it. Greg, do you think we'll earn more primetime games than last year? No, because there's only a Thursday night against Philly and a Sunday night or Monday night against Cincinnati. I'm going on vacation in September to Las Vegas for a few days, and I'll be back in time for the Monday night game that week. Going to the Sphere and seeing the Eagles, among other things. Told you, I did a video last week just saying, I don't know if this is my last season. I never know any of that thing. But I definitely am doing some other things and just not being consumed by this team. This is my 50th training camp somewhere. And it's time for me to start looking at other things a little more. But I will do this season, and then we'll see. So I'm taking a little bit of time off here and there, because you get to my age now, people disappear and, try to live life beyond the goalpost. All right, Alexander's, what's the next pizza place? Yeah, I just mentioned I'm going to go to Curry and Pies in Georgetown on Wednesday. So it'll be up around then. We'll see we'll see. I'm going to take my son-in-law with me. He likes unusual food. And we'll just see what happens there. We are 22 minutes into the hour. I'm going to do till 9, in Eastern. And there is a thanks button I always mention, which is a $sign, right around there somewhere. It's a way of chipping in and saying, hey, Rick, you had a long day. I can tell by my eye or something. My eye looks like, I don't know what happened with that. Been a long day. I had to do a tour with some of you viewers out there. Some of you wanted to go. And I am going to announce very soon. I should have already done it, but I've got 3 tours planned in September, October. If you want to go on a 90-minute walking tour, we're doing a Lincoln Assassination, Embassy Row, and Old Town Alexandria. And I'm going to have the dates up. They'll be Saturdays, and then we'll go eat pizza afterwards. And you can buy a tour ticket, and then you can pay for your own pizza. But it'll be fun, on that. Abe, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, I need gas fund. I need toll fund to go to Redskin practice or Commanders practice. Gregory, thoughts on Dotson? I'm playing well in the second. They just wanted to keep giving him more of a look. They're trying to figure out where to use him more. So he's getting a little bit more of a look. Jordan, thought on Litos? Used to love Litos. The original Litos, which is now gone, really, was very different than the chain. And the chain pizza is okay. I used to be a bigger Lito fan than I am now. I'm getting a little more picky, I guess. Sean, let's see. How many rookie QBs historically had the confidence and understanding to audible in their second career attempt? That was pretty funny. Maybe RG3. Outside of him, Haskins probably had the confidence. He didn't have the ability, but he might have done it. He might have been one of those. Heath, I don't think would have. So not many, to answer your question. It was a pretty cool moment. Alexander, do you want to visit an Ethiopian pizza place? Oh, I don't know, Alexander. That kind of sounds, a little much. I'll have to think about that one. Is it in Ethiopia? No, I mean, that's the great thing about DC is there is so much diversity in the city. 1 out of 5 people in DC was born in another country. Only 1 out of 5 is a native like me. So the food scene is all over the place. If you want to try different kinds of food. Bob says Bryson Tremaine make it a receiver. I think so. When someone asked me earlier who's really impressed me down the roster, Tremaine has. I think he's had good practices on everything. I've really been impressed with him. I think he can make the team. Jordan, what's your honest thoughts on Cousins? Well, my dishonest thoughts would be I try to give you my honest thoughts all the time. I liked Kirk. I spent a lot of time with Kirk. And matter of fact, I'm not really pitching the book right now, but in my book, there is a chapter where Kirk Cousins talks about how to throw a pass. I gave him the question. You're standing on the sideline with your boys at training camp. The ball bounces into the stands. You got to throw it back. You get one throw. If you suck, your friends are going to rag you forever about it. So what would you tell this guy to do? And we had a whole chapter about that in here. You can get this on Amazon this week. I'll put it up for next week. I'm too tired to deal with it today. I've just been rocking and rolling too much. Got to be up at 5 tomorrow morning for camp. So it's just, you get a little tired sometimes. So anyway, Cousins is a good but not great quarterback. That's my honest thought. Nothing wrong with being a good quarterback. He's made a lot of money off of it. Jack, have I watched Manhunt? Yes, I have. And I hated it. I think there was 1,000 mistakes in it. Yes, the basic premise of John Wilkes Booth, my cousin, killed Lincoln. They got that part right, but not a whole lot else. And just why? The answers are there. We all know what they are. Why would you make these mistakes for TV purposes? I just think they sold it out way too much. There's characters in there that weren't even real hardly, or there's just so many things like that. It's like Keanu Reeves in the Replacement movie about the '87 strike team with the Redskins. And I even talked to the scriptwriter way back about that movie, and we talked about all this stuff. Didn't listen to any of it. They just have their own ideas. As a matter of fact, somebody from a Hollywood production company called me maybe a couple months ago and said, "Hey, we're thinking about doing a documentary on the '87 strike team." I'm like, oh, "It's been done, dude." But okay. And he said, "We want you to spill your guts and tell us everything." And I said, "Well, for a consulting fee, I will, but I'm not giving this to you for free anymore." And they said, "Oh, we don't have money." And I said, "Well, I don't have time." In the end, so best of luck. There's not another reporter around who covered that team. Okay, so Greg, does the new owner fly with the team? That's a great question. I have not heard that he has. He lives in Miami, Josh Harris, so we won't be flying down. He'll already be there. He flies up here occasionally. Antoinette, is Jack Kent Cook's daughter still living in DMV? No, she lives. Last time, which has been a few years since I was around, I was in Boston, and I heard the locals tell me stories about her. They weren't exactly nice stories either, but kind of a rich kid, spoiled. So she's there. Marlena lives in the Washington area. I know somebody did yard work for her. That's how I know that. And let's see. Alexander Wilson, what did I think about Spielberg's Lincoln movie? Now, that one was much better. It actually had that John Wilkes Booth broke his ankle in the swamps when his horse fell, not on the stage, which is the popular, traditional story, but that's not true. I was in Ford's Theater today taking a group of people through, just saying there's so many stories about Lincoln that just aren't true. And they just make it, you repeat a lie enough, everybody believes it. Abe, any IU trade thoughts? I don't see it happening on there. Smack City, if you do something good, don't do it for free. There you go. At this point, I'm out of favors on that, which is why you hit the thanks button to say, "Hey, Rick, you get paid a little bit for doing these kind of shows." Let's see, we're about halfway through now. So if you came in late, this show does repeat itself on YouTube forever and ever, I guess. And so you can watch it all, if you missed anything, if you want to go back. But most people tend to watch for about 15 minutes. And so a lot of times questions get repeated on there. I am doing this, hopefully every Monday through the end of the year. Last year I missed one. I had COVID. Didn't know I had COVID, but at the time, but because it wasn't very hard on me, I was lucky. But I only missed 1 week out of like 26. The podcast with my buddy Matt, maybe next week returns. Seasons of Discontent. We'll be coming back soon. Do I think this team will surprise NFL experts? Gregory. Well, probably the national guys, they will. I mean, I think most of the local media figures they win somewhere 7, 8, 9. 7, 8 is probably a popular number. A lot of people will say. So, and I think that's about where they'll be. So they won't surprise us. But national guys, they like to, they still hate on things. They still think Dan Snider owns the team. And so they're negative. Antoinette, will Brown become the number 2 receiver? I don't think so. But he'll certainly be, I think, in the mix. I think he'll be okay on that. Let's see. Mike, Josh Harris owns teams, NFL, NBA, NHL, Premier League, part owner of Joe Gibbs Racing. Yeah, he's got money everywhere, doesn't he? What do you consider an MLB team? Have not heard about that. I haven't heard a word about that. Now, the Nats are for sale. They've been for sale for a long time. And nobody, but the family doesn't seem willing to sell it for anything at a discount. So they're still owning it. Alexander, was John Wilkes Booth at John Brown's execution at Harper's Ferry? Yes, he was. He actually got a guard uniform and went up and watched the whole thing too, pretending to be part of the military group there. So yeah, he did see it. He was pretty impressed how somebody would go to their grave over this kind of thing. Of course, he did too. His stance. Bob, how much do you expect Jaden to play in Miami? I think several series is probably it. I mean, the great thing is against the Jets is he only played one series, but it was an extended series. I think it was around 7, 8 plays. So it's like 2, 3 and outs, So that's what you wanted. He went down the field, he let a drive, got a number of snaps, and made some plays and scored. And then that's it. And that's exactly what you really want in an ideal world. You don't really want him to go out in 2 plays, throw an 80-yard touchdown, and walk off the field. You need reps on these kind of things. So I caught up to you guys. So if you want to hit the thanks button on any of this, as I always say. Oh, I know it's yeah. And so sorry, I think it's 2 different things at once. Steve's not here tonight because he told me he's going to be on vacation. So Steve, if you're watching on replay, I did give you a hall pass for that. I remember why he isn't here. Because a lot of people come regularly. Thanks for that. I do appreciate it. Let's see. So Bob says, yeah, he's been impressed with Jaden. Yeah. Ave, field goal kicker status. It's going to be like it is for a couple more weeks until people start cutting kickers, and then we'll see. Jordan, with John Wilkes Booth being an actor, who's the equivalent of such a thing today? The popular one that people often say is if Brad Pitt killed a president. That's how famous John Wilkes Booth was. And he was considered the handsomest man in America. That's why he's a relative of mine. We share DNA. So that's kind of a young Brad Pitt, not current Brad Pitt. It's getting old. Gregory, new stadium going to be closed dome? I think so. I think you have to. If you're going to spend all that kind of money, you need to have the most events you can have, and that requires a dome on there. So I would think so. And I think it's going to be in Maryland. If my money's on the table right now, I know everybody wants RFK. But listen, if they go back to RFK, it's because, it's the best deal. I don't think it's going to happen. But they're not going back to be Joe Gibbs' team. That's for sure. It's just to be a central transport, metro kind of thing. But I think it's going to end up in Landover again. Sorry. I'm not going to be around to cover this forever, so you guys can go. It'll be your problem. Sean, any insight on the Brandon Coleman injury? I think it's not just a flesh wound, but it's not anything serious. And Dan Quinn talked a little bit about it today, but only a little bit because coaches don't have to discuss it much this time of year, so they're not going to on that. So he's listed day to day. and we'll just kind of we'll see. I'm not sure he's going to play. If they don't practice by Thursday, then they are not going to play on Saturday. He and anybody else. And at the beginning of the video, if you trace it back, I talk a little bit about those things. Antoinette, will the starters play whole quarter? Probably. Sean, side note, my 7-year-old Jagger, like Mick Jagger, is a big fan. Well, thank you, Jagger. I appreciate that. I guess I have to be your beast of burden. Something like that. That's hard to believe. A 7-year-old would be a fan of a rocker who's near 80. You know, don't current musicians make any music worth listening to? Do you have to steal my generation's music? Still play it all the time? Maybe they don't play it all the time. It's just what I hear. Okay, I see. Slam and Jammin's here. Okay. Worried about the health of the offensive line and kick. I wouldn't worry about either yet. But I agree that they got to get healthy and they got to be good. Got to be at least decent at the O-line. You don't want to get your quarterback killed. I was at practice recently, and Jaden was scrambling to his right, and his left foot kind of caught the grass, and it went to an awkward angle, and the pass rusher was coming at him, and I thought, oh no. I really thought he was going to have an ankle injury, high ankle sprain, something like that. But he pulled it together real quick and then threw a dart downfield. It was an impressive play. So, you're only one play away from something happening to somebody. So, yeah, let's just hope the best. I was just thinking, why? Don't tell me this quarterback's going to get hurt. How far are they from digging a hole for the new stadium? Gregory asked. I would think at least 3 years. It's just they're starting from scratch, and there's a lot to do. Daniel, let's see. How do I think the Commanders will do this season? 7 to 9 wins. We'll just kind of see what happens. It's a tough schedule. A lot tougher than people are talking about. Mike, thank you so much for donating. Do I have any interactions with Joe? Yeah. I talk to Joe here and there when I see him. He was originally called Thiesman and made it rhyme with Theismann. He was at Notre Dame when he did that. I like Joe. Good guy. If you ever meet Joe, say hello. He's a good guy to talk to. Bob, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Antoinette, do I think Tress is kicking way too much? Well, he's the only punter they have. So that's just what happens on there. Tackling somebody. Well, everybody had a lot of fun with that. Tress is a very popular player on the team and among fans. But people and Tress is a great guy. He's fun. He's the senior man on the team now. And also people like Tress a lot. So when he made that tackle the other day, the team exploded with that. But you don't want your kicker making too many, our punter making too many tackles, or your kicker. Daniel, what do I think about the defense against the run game? Too early to tell on that yet, but I don't think it's going to be a shutdown deal. Let's see. Todd, I think we'll be 9-8, 10-7. Ooh, I don't know if I'd go 10. I think 9-8 is a possibility if they get lucky and steal a game. Are we better than Jerry's team? Says Greg. Jerry's team being the Cowboys, of course. That's a good question. I would say maybe. You got to win those head-to-heads, though. That tends to be the difference. And they haven't had much luck in the division. But Washington's got Dallas's D coordinator from last year, so maybe that helps even things up. Norv, I don't remember how Norv did against Cowboys in the early years. I think he won some. Okay, William, there's a point in recent history when Tress was our best weapon. Yeah, like last season. Hopefully this year the quarterback is the best weapon on there. Okay, so we got about 20 minutes to go. Then the 1%'s on. I'm gonna go watch and see if I'm smart. If ever you watch 1% on NBC quiz show, I actually got them all right about a month ago. I got everything, but most nights I miss 3 or 4. It's a hard show. Okay, can I explain the new kickoff rule, Mike? Okay, so it's basically a much smaller closer things so that people aren't running full speed and more serious injuries happen. So they moved them to about 10 yards apart on the lines. Team kicks off, nobody can move until the guy touches the ball. So it's a very quick, and compacted thing, less violence, less injuries, I would think. I think what you're not seeing yet on the preseason is no one's going to show you some blocking patterns that I know they're working on. Um, so you need quicker guys on the line that can pull block. I think you're going to see more of the tight ends and maybe guards and these things than you would normally. You're going to need more of a running back, maybe a receiver who's used to running in traffic and breaking arm tackles to get those extra runs. Can it be exciting? Oh, sorry. Can it be as exciting as the old one? Yeah, I think so. I think you'll see people bust a few. The really smart teams in September who have better blocking schemes on this and take it seriously will score. But by midseason, everyone's going to have seen these things on film and they'll neutralize it. That's kind of what the NFL does. They watch film and figure out how can I stop you. So it would be less exciting then. Do I like it better? I wouldn't say that, but they didn't ask my opinion, so it doesn't matter to me. Antoinette, a lot of missed tackles against the Jets. Yeah. And Quinn admitted that they don't hit each other as much in training camp as they used to. They used to you could have full pads twice a day. I mean, Marty Schottenheimer did. He had a full padded practice twice a day, every day, to the last day of camp. And they started 0-5. So what good did that do them? But they don't tackle nearly as much. That was part of the collective bargaining agreement with players. They're trying to keep people from getting hurt. Some people would make the observation of not practicing tackling can get you hurt. You're going to get hurt on a football field. Very few guys walk away clean off a football field. That's for sure. Okay. All right, caught up again. Woo. Okay. I had a decent sized crowd here tonight. Usually in the course of the whole show, because people rotate through, we tend to do 300-400 people. But the season starting, we'll do more than that. Okay. Any new food in the stadium this year, Gregory? Don't know. I only eat in the press box. I can't afford that food you guys are eating. You seen how many thanks buttons have been hit tonight? So, and no one has mentioned any of that yet. But to me, if you don't want to pay the money for food, you're not going to starve if you don't eat for 3 hours, especially since a lot of you have been out the tailgating and eating. Joe Gibbs started 0-5. That's right, Mike. And then he turned it around. So Marty started out 0-5. And just like Joe, finished 8-8. I was telling a story today about it. So Bedford hires Joe Gibbs. And, Cook basically said, who the hell is Joe Gibbs? And he said, oh, he's this assistant. You'll really, okay. So Bedford says, Cook says to Bedford, okay, I have to trust you on this. Go ahead. And they were 0-3, and Cook is enraged with Bedford and telling them, you lose again, I'm firing both of you. And they did lose again. And then next week they lost again. They're hiding from Cook. But after that 0-5, they turned it around. And, when they had Super Bowls, Cook would hug Joe and pretty much say, I'm glad I hired you. You win, everybody loves it. Antoinette was sweet relish. I hate pickles anyway. So I do eating contests with my grandson because he loves YouTube and he wants to be on. He's a very picky eater. It's hard to get him to try anything, like a lot of kids. So I say, if you want to be on YouTube, we got to do it. So next one, we're doing cherry tomatoes. I'll probably see him this coming weekend. We'll do cherry tomatoes, which I don't like either, which makes it funnier that both of us hate it. He'll probably hate it too, but he loves being on YouTube. And a lot of people watch. It was the most watched video that I put out last week. How long does Dan have to fix this mess? Asked Gregory. We're talking about Dan Quinn, not Dan Snider. I would think it's good 3 years. I mean, if he finishes his third year and he's been 4-13, 4-13, 5-11, yeah, I don't know if you get the fourth year. But I don't think that'll happen as much. I don't know. You can do all the right things and still not win. I mean, I even was talking with Adam Peters and Quinn a couple weeks ago. And they kind of admitted, they said, yeah, but you do the best you can and then you hope for the best. And sometimes life cheats you and you don't win a game. We'll see. Um, Sean, Belichick Gibbs drama. I don't really know too much about that. Um, I mean, they're competitors. I mean, Belichick doesn't say anything nice about anybody. You think he'd say something nice about Brady, but he rarely does. And Joe was competitive with other guys too. How do you feel this rookie class will look overall? Asked Sheldon. I think the 5 guys that they got in the top 100 picks will all contribute this season. I think they'll be okay. Although I'm not, Johnny Newton's feet injury, surgeries, all that stuff. I don't know how he's going to contribute this year yet. But I'm not saying he's not playing. I'm just not sure yet how it's going to go. But I like the other guys that they got down in the draft. So, and so I think they'll be okay. I think it could be the beginning of, I mean, just look at Ron Rivera's drafts now and you realize how bad they were. And, they always say, oh, you can't judge a draft, for several years. Well, we forgot the several years and I judge those drafts to suck. So, man, they were bad. That's why this roster's turning over so much this year. It's going to be the highest roster turnover of a single year for this franchise since 1945, which was the end of World War II. Think about that. Jordan, did Booth get in a boat from Maryland to Virginia? Yes. And how did he end up in Maryland? Okay, it's kind of a weird thing. The river turns. So if you're on the Maryland shore, you look to the right, you still see the Maryland shoreline, but it goes farther out, which just say to the left, which is, I don't know which direction it is. Anyway, he's going up the river against the current. It's dark. You can't see anything. They got a candle, for a light because they can't put on a lantern because they're worried about Union boats catching them. So they just went upriver and they ran into Maryland again because it comes out. It bends, it's sort of like that kind of. So by going straight, they ended up back in Maryland again. They had to wait. At that point, they're exhausted. And they just said, let's wait till dawn so we can see what we do, ride the tide down. They got off in Virginia. Okay. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Any stories about Mark Rippon? I liked Rip. And he did hold that clipboard for a few years. He was waiting for his turn. And then when he got his chance, I don't think Rip was the greatest quarterback. He rose with the tide around him, but he did rise with the tide around him. Some guys can't do that. So I thought that was his best asset. But good guy, good solid guy. All right, good leader, that kind of thing. Traveling alien, you're in. I'm happy with what I saw with Hartman and Driscoll. Daniels only had 3 throws. Yeah, first throw Daniels threw was way high, and that was a dread one, I think. The second one, he calmed down and threw a dart, which was great. So you can't tell a lot from it, but I saw enough. I've watched him practice enough. I see it. Greg, am I for joint preseason practices? Yeah, I think it helps not to beat on each. You don't get a good look beating up on your own players. I mean, if you sit there every day just doing your own guys, oh man, this defense is really looking great. Translation, your offense sucks. So every victory on your field is a loss on your field. So you need to see other players to see how you measure up to them. Otherwise, you kind of get fooled as to your own team's talents. Because just because they can do this play all the time against your defense doesn't mean they can really do it against other teams. Antoinette, am I going to the Sunday night game against New England? Yes, I will. I'll be there. I usually go to all the home games. I missed, in 30 years or plus of home games, I think I've now counted, I've missed 5, usually because of illness over the years. Heart attack, I missed 2, I think, when I had that. So that's the only thing that usually keeps me away. Why? I don't know. Why would I go to this, 8:00 preseason game that means nothing? Because it's good to be around things. That's why I go. As my wife asks me that question all the time. Trey, how do I feel about the tight end group? Well, I mean, Ertz is a baller. I really like Ertz. After watching him destroy Washington's defense for a decade, he comes here and you can see a guy who's a winner. I mean, his attitude's winning. His whole time on that field shows you how a winner does it. He's a good pickup for them. So I think that helps. Bates will be blocking some. Cole Turner, could see him falling off the roster, to be honest. He just doesn't seem to quite get it. He drafted a rookie too. He's looked okay. I think Cole might be the odd man out. I saw that Logan Thomas was cut, uh, heard it pulled a hamstring, and I guess they just figured he couldn't make it. He's 34 now. So Logan had a really great year here one year. I wish the guy well. He's got a lot of kids to feed. So I don't know if he'll end up somewhere else, maybe. Trey's from Central Florida, which is about as hot as hell is. Whew, man, Central Florida is one hot place. You get no breeze. Mike, Rippon had those 8-10 step dropbacks. Yeah. And he could throw because he had a great line. He had the hogs, and he threw it to Gary Clark. I think Gary Clark should be in the Hall of Fame. I just do. I think he was that good. But he didn't get quite the attention because played a couple years in USFL, which I think those stats should count because it's the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And Monk, of course, was Monk. So Gary didn't get quite the accolades he should have, but I think Gary deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. So does B. Mitch, so does Joe Jacoby, kind of thing. And London Fletcher. I don't say that enough because you often think London played elsewhere so much too, but London Fletcher, they've had a hard time replacing him, and I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame too. Antoinette, who do you think will win the kicking spot? Someone new. Someone's name we haven't said yet. Trey agrees with me about Fletch. Mike went to James Madison. So I put out there, I went to James Madison last Friday, so a few days ago. I'd never been to James Madison, and I was in town near where I was staying. So I said, hey, let's just go see the campus and football stadium, of course. And I got to see the field and impressed. It wasn't as far away from DC as I thought, and it's not a small town anymore. When I was in college in the 70s, Madison was known as a big party school, and I'm told that it might still be, but people didn't take it seriously. But I think they've upgraded a lot. Saw Mary Baldwin College too when I was in Stanton, and I'd heard of it, just never been there. So it's right by Woodrow Wilson's home, is right next to Mary Baldwin College. So picked up a couple more colleges on my list of ones I've seen, however many that is. I don't know how many. I'm not as big into colleges because I cover pro ball more, but I have been to some. I've been to all the ACC stadiums, or the old ACC stadiums, not the new ones. And there's a lot of cool places, man. You go to like NC State, they're in the pine trees. I mean, you can smell the pine on there, and the wolf, wolves howling around. NC State's a real home game for them. There, Duke, I'm sure they've changed this since. Duke was like the whole press box at Duke was doctor's offices during the week. We had to take gurneys out of the rows to go sit down and cover the game. And they had the visitors' locker room was like at the end of this horseshoe stadium. You walk like at least 5 minutes. So I passed my car going to the locker room to talk to players. So by the time you get to it, you got time to use the restroom, coach you out a couple of plays, and you got to walk back. They probably have changed that. William Thorpe. It's a crime that Jerry Smith and Larry Brown are not in the Hall of Fame. I think Larry Brown, there's been a push lately about it. I think, and I grew up watching Larry Brown. I thought he was a really good player. His career was not quite long enough, in my opinion. I think he's just like Theismann. They're there, but they're not over the top. Jerry Smith, I have a hard time gauging that. A lot of people think he should be in. I'm not really sure about it. Never looked hard enough at it. Favorite DE rotation, asked Trey. Well, your big two are in there first, and then I think maybe Fedarian Mathis gets some time too. Ridgeway is definitely going to get some snaps. I think he's probably their first backup interior line. George Washington National Forest is in Virginia like that, says Mike. Okay. I had to go over Skyline Drive to get to where I was going. It's called Massanutten, which is near Harrisonburg, not too far. Man, yeah, my ears popped. And that was only like 1,500 feet. I'm a flatlander. I'm sorry. Yeah. When I was traveling in the Rockies, I was backpacking with some friends about 10 years ago. And they said, oh, we're preparing stuff. And they said, all right, we're going up to 14,000 feet. After 10, it changes the game if you've ever done this. And what I learned was they grabbed smart water, and they said, take a water like this that has minerals in it. It sticks to you instead of going through you, and it helps you deal with altitude sickness, that and eating something. So if you're going backpacking in the Rockies, yes, I did do that. Wasn't always an old man. Gregory, I hope we get at least to the wild card game. I think it's a possibility if things break their way right. Maybe now that Dan Snider's gone, maybe the good karma can come to town and maybe this team can steal a game or two and make the playoffs. Can I see Wiley making the practice squad? Robert, yeah, I'd say it's a possibility. Yeah. Yeah, I would say that. I mean, they keep almost now with this practice squad and all, they keep about, I don't know, 80+% of players in camp ended up on the active or practice squads. Mike, B. Mitch still holds the record for most all-purpose yards. Well, I mean, behind Jerry Rice, right? I mean, if we're talking about career combined yards kind of thing, Rice is ahead of him. But other than that, yeah, B. Mitch was really good as a punter, flipping the field, getting an extra 15 yards on penalties. And, he was a guy who really made a difference. I like that Devin Hester did a shout out to Brian in his Hall of Fame speech. That was a class move. And he said, I agree, Brian should be there. Jordan Douglas, who I happen to see today, should Pete Rose bet on the Commanders to make the playoffs this year? Yeah, go ahead. I think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of bad people that have done bad things. I know it's an integrity of the game issue and all that jazz, but I think Pete Rose should be in baseball's Hall of Fame. Trey, I think Wiley, player with speed. Okay. I mean, I haven't watched him a whole lot, to be honest. William, Floyd Little is in. Yeah, true. His stats are like Brown's. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple comparisons for Brown to do it. There's no buzz to it. And with no buzz to it, it's hard to do it. Trey, is Jason Campbell in the Ring of Honor? I do not believe so. I don't have them all committed to memory, but I don't believe so. Got just a few minutes to go, a couple minutes. If you want to donate money to the Rick Snider cause to stay out of the poorhouse, you can hit the thanks button there. I will appreciate it. Next week, hopefully I won't be so dog tired, but we'll see. I'll announce a few things and we'll go forward. I do grades after games, but not preseason games. Somebody asked me that. It's too varied for a preseason thing to grade them. But I do it after the regular season games. It's one of the most read things. I started doing grades when I worked at the Washington Times in 1995. I started doing the grades. So I've been doing them for almost 30 years. And do I screw up and do bad ones? Yeah, because they're flash grades. I post them exactly when the game ends. I go back later, look at some box score stuff, and I go, I could have moved that one up or down. It's just a gut feeling, and everybody goes wild and yells about whatever position. So you'll see those after the game on Twitter, where it's Rick Snider's Washington on Twitter. Mike, when I'm in Vegas, do I gamble at all? I'm modest. I'm getting old and boring. I don't really drink much anymore, and don't really gamble much. I like to bet on horse racing because I used to cover horse racing, and I made more money than I lost at horse racing. But the table games I just see how fast you can lose money. They kind of intimidate me. And slots, I don't know if you want to go throw a few quarters in, but it's not really while I'm in Vegas. I'll go see other things around Vegas. My wife was born in Vegas, so got connections there. I want to go see Pawn Stars this time when I'm in Vegas. Because last time I was in Vegas, it's been long time, and Pawn Stars came out right afterwards. I thought, gee, I would have liked to have seen that. So this is my first trip back, and I don't have anything to sell, but I might buy something there just to buy it. Have something from the show. William says, we all know why Jerry Smith is not in. That's shameful. And of course, for those of you who wouldn't know, Jerry Smith was gay. It wasn't talked about back then. You didn't talk about things like we do now. So is that true? I will give it a maybe. That's for sure. Mike, you should start a horse racing podcast. I only have so much time, Mike. So me and Mr. Ed, we just don't have time to do everything. I have some other things I'm working on. And we are at 9:00. So any last words, any last questions, hit the bell. let me know. And let's see. So if you are new to the show or whatever, I do have videos posted 6 a.m. and dinner time. Most days, most of them are commanders, but not always. So 2 minutes. When I go to practice now, people yell from the crowd, "Rick, give me 2 minutes." And you sound like my wife. My God. So, but I do appreciate people saying hello. So if you're at practice and see me, I'm not there every day. Neither are you. And there are not many open. I have to check the schedule, see what's left. So I'll be posting tomorrow around a little before noon, I hope, uh, on my video for what happened to practice, if anything. Most practices are kind of boring. Gregory, do I think Josh is done putting in money in the Commander's Park? No, they're still spending money trying to upgrade it. But, I agree with you. It's a some loss thing at some point. You have to stop. But they're just trying to get some things up to code, I guess. Mike, thank you. So for all of you, see you again next Monday. But it's every day you can see videos on Rick Snider's Washington on there. So thanks for coming, and I'll see you all soon. I'm Rick Snider for Rick Snider's Washington. You can still watch on replay. You can still hit the thanks button. But other than that, guys, thanks so much for coming, and I'll see you next Monday.